Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jaya Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jaya Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Bala Ba Girivana Dari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Bala Ba Girivana Dari Jaya Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Asutara Sutta Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Asutara Sutta Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Premsi Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shaima Kund Radha Kund Gir Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Hari Ram Sankirtan Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Lalitamrita Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming here today. I know that regularly every Sunday, Daiva Shakti gives the Lilamrita class, and she's the most gifted person to do that. I'm going to try to continue on from where she is here. You can see we started, I remember months ago when this class started, I think it was even before these air conditioners were in. We were very happy to get all these air conditioners in, huh? Now we have nice air-conditioned room, everywhere air-conditioned here in Vrindavan. All right, so we're at the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and we're in the chapter The War, which in the descriptions here over the past few pages, it's talking about different wars, right? Talking about World War II was there, and also there was the war within the Gaudiya Math after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left, how his disciples, Prabhupada, I was with Prabhupada so many times when he would speak about when his spiritual master left and how he didn't appoint the Acharya. He didn't appoint an Acharya. What did he appoint? This GBC. He asked the GBC to conjointly run the society. That was his desire, because he didn't, much like Srila Prabhupada did. It's very loud. I can hear. So, anyway, we'll continue reading on. Whoops, let me see. And if anyone has questions or comments in between while I'm still reading, you can ask. So the last paragraph we did was, of course, there could be a compatible balance between family service and devotional service. This is, we're always looking for this. Grahasta's always trying to find a balance. Not just Grahasta, everyone. We have to find our balance between devotional service and, of course, the Grahasta taking care of the family. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had described two simultaneous obligations, bodily and spiritual, social status, mental development, cleanliness, nourishment, and the struggle for existence were all bodily obligations. The activities of devotional service to Krishna were spiritual, and the two should parallel one another. In Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life, his family was a source of spiritual encouragement, and he used his social position to advance his preaching. But Abhay, experience had been different. The two paths seems to be at war, each threatening the other's existence. He felt himself operating somewhat like the materialist he had criticized in his writings, absorbed in the struggle for existence with insufficient time for self-realization. Although his family made more and more demands of him, he was feeling less inclined to work for them and more inclined to preach Krishna consciousness. It was a predicament. He could only push on diligently, support his family, expand his business, and hope for a great success so that he could revive his publishing. I know sometimes devotees, they wonder why they become devotee, why they're struggling. When you read through Srila Prabhupada's life, The struggle was always there. I know when I was with Srila Prabhupada in 1973, that also 50th anniversary is coming up, Srila Prabhupada's installation of the deities in Bhaktivedanta Manor, Radha Golokananda. Right, Golokananda, yes. So that's coming up in this spring. I think it was Janmashtami. So Prabhupada, he stayed there for about a month, and people were coming regularly. At that time, 73, there was already a large population of Indians. People from India had gone there. And some of them were coming to see Prabhupada, along with, we know, musicians. We know that, of course, George Harrison, but there were other musicians as well. One, his name was Donovan. There were politicians. There was race car drivers. Shyama Sundar was arranging so many different people every evening to come to darshan. He thought if he did that, of course, Prabhupada would stay. As long as he had people coming in that he could preach to, that would help keep him there in Bhaktivedanta Manor. And it was a very good strategy. Shyama Sundar, of course, we know, was Prabhupada's secretary. He wrote these 3 volumes about his time with Srila Prabhupada. So he knew Prabhupada really liked to preach. And he knew if he could reach people that were important, that could be very useful. Just like, of course, we know George. But I remember one day, one evening, it was usually around 7 p.m., 6, 7 p.m., the darshan would be there. And there was one Indian family, and they were just saying, Prabhupada, everything was okay, but this tea drinking, very difficult to give up. And they were being honest with Srila Prabhupada. They say, well, how can you give up tea? And Prabhupada, if you were paying attention going through the beginning here, Prabhupada, one of his favorite drinks, what was his? Nimbu Pani. Prabhupada liked Nimbu Pani very much, he said. And he said to them, you make a nice Nimbu Pani. And you can even make hot, like for tea, you make a hot Nimbu Pani. And they were still saying, and then Prabhupada said, my wife, she also was attached to tea drinking. He said, and I told her, either the tea goes or I go. He said, and here I am. So we know he would say in different ways. With his family, it was a struggle, because he wanted to preach. He wanted to write books. We know it by this point in time. He had already started Back to Godhead magazine. We read the struggles, just getting paper. Everything was a struggle. So the fact that he was pure devotee didn't mean struggle wouldn't be there. Of course, we know Prabhupada also says, pure devotee, he loves that struggle for Krishna. But with his family and with his sons, of course, we know it mentions about the got daughter married, got another daughter married, third daughter didn't want to get married, tried his best. He said, but she wouldn't marry. I was with him when he was, again, in 1973 in Calcutta. He was trying to engage his son to earn money. He still, even at that point, he said to his son, you can earn money. But how did he want him to earn money? He said, you can sell my books. He was prepared to open up a bookstall in Calcutta for his son. He said, you can earn income and you sell my books. So he was always trying his best to engage everyone. But the Lucknow factory seemed almost beyond his means. He had purposely begun on a large scale with the aim of making a larger profit, but monthly expenses were high. He had fallen behind in his rent, and now he was involved in a court case with the landlord. Although he was visiting Calcutta regularly and shipping raw materials from Calcutta to Lucknow daily, he always found his family members in Calcutta uncooperative. His servant, Gauranga, was also reluctant to work as Abai required and was thinking of going back to live with his family. Abai again wrote to Gauranga on the 23rd, and this is the letter, offering my humble obeisances at the feet of the Vaishnava. Gauranga Prabhu, I have received your postcard dated 18/11/1945 and got all the informations. There is no need to come here just for a month after spending the money and then go back. For the present, take 25 rupees from Dubra and go home. Write a letter to me after your arrival, then I will send the rest of your money in 1 or 2 installments by money order. Then from there, you let me know when you can come here. I have started my work here in a fairly big scale. You have seen that with your own eyes. So if there is no income, who will spend for a court interrogation? Everything is on my head. The brother and sons are just eating and sleeping like a bunch of females and breaking the axe on my head. You go home as soon as you get the money and try to come back as soon as possible. So it wasn't that everything was going smoothly along for Srila Prabhupada. Always tests were there. Just like for us now, it's cold. Still, going in my head, I've actually struggled to go to the temple in the early morning. But I remember as a youngster, Prabhupada always speaking about in the summertime, and of course he would talk about India and life in Vrindavan, how hot it is in the summer. Still, the mother must be in the kitchen cooking. Even the heat is there. So this was the way Prabhupada always instructed. Whatever is going on, one has to carry on with their service. And we know by this point, now this is 1945, so that means his children are grown up. Prabhupada more and more, he's dissatisfied. It already mentioned one dream, Prabhupada's spiritual master, and directing him. He said to take sannyas. Again, I remember that in a lecture in New Dwarka, 1973, when he said that. My spiritual master came many times, he said, ordering me to take sannyas. And he used those same words. He said, horrible. We were laughing. We started laughing. And Prabhupada shook his head. He said, no. He said it was very difficult. It wasn't a funny situation. The income, everything being taken away. Prabhupada said Krishna took everything. And the devotees chuckled. Prabhupada said, no. He said it was very difficult. So this is life. Not easy. You're devotee, non-devotee. I had someone write me the other day, someone who read my book. Anyway, he was asking questions. And he said, struggling Krishna consciousness is so difficult. He said, for years and years, he's been practicing to some degree for decades. He said, but so difficult. I often think I should just give up and just enjoy. I wrote him, I said, what enjoyment? Who's getting enjoyment? Where is this enjoyment? These brief moments of pleasure. This is what Prabhupada would say. All this enjoyment. Material world suffering. And we see more and more all the time now as the years go by. Yes. So let me start. We're starting another chapter here. An unknown friend. So this is from Madhavrinda Puri. Let the sharp moralist accuse me of being illusioned. I do not mind. Experts in Vedic activities may slander me as being misled. Friends and relatives may call me frustrated. My brothers may call me a fool. The wealthy Maimonites may point me out as mad, and the learned philosophers may assert that I am much too proud. Still, my mind does not budge an inch from the determination to serve the lotus feet of Govinda, though I am unable to do it. That's Madhavendra Puri. Aside from his difficulties with business and family, Abhay had to survive the cataclysms of Indian independence and partition. He was not active politically, but was one of the hundreds of millions affected by the violent dawn of Indian independence. When he was traveling and preaching, I know someone asked him about voting in America, and Prabhupada said, I don't vote. He said, I don't make a vote, he said. He said, unless one is Krishna conscious, he said, no question of voting for them. Huh? Unless one is a devotee, he said, so therefore I don't vote. And we know that in those times, 73, 74, even the devotees, some of the devotees in the Atlanta and Washington, D.C. area, they started a political party. It was In God We Trust Party. It was called the In God We Trust. And it went on for some time, and Prabhupada encouraged him until he didn't. Then he said, the nasty business, politics. He said, better to make people Krishna conscious. He said, so they can elect a proper politician, proper leader. This was always Prabhupada's mood. Whenever he went to any offices, whenever he dealt with any politicians, professors, governors, we know the mayor, like the mayor of France, when he went to Paris, he went to the mayor's palatial house there. Simply preach to him your duty. If you're a leader, then your duty is to lead properly. So Prabhupada always, we see through his life, duty. We know he said from the very first moment he took initiation. When he first met his spiritual master, he said he already surrendered from the very first meeting. And we know he says that, initiation. First initiation, he says formality. But it's to do the business of devotee. He said that's real initiation, when you carry out the orders of the spiritual master. So Prabhupada always had this struggle going on with his family. He had a big family. And as obligated, he took care of them. But he saw them, they're not assisting. He tried to engage them. From wife, children, that they weren't interested in helping him in any way. We see in his businesses, what did he call? Abai and Sons. No son was interested. He couldn't interest him. So he tried to do everything in the proper way as a Vaishnava. But he was always very fortunate. As he said, his father trained him up very nicely in the deity worship. So that carried through. He told us, I haven't given you anything new. He said, everything you're doing, he said, I was doing as a child. And now we're getting to this point, the one thing that he didn't, that we're not doing, he said, the books. He said, that was the one thing that came from his spiritual master. He said, otherwise, everything I've taught you, he said, I've been doing since I was a child. Okay, so now, while Gandhi and his Hindu-dominated Congress were demanding a united, free India, the Muslim League, led by M.A. Jinnah, called for partition and their own Muslim nation, Pakistan. The conflict raged. In August 1946, the outgoing British government invited Jawaharlal Nehru, Congress Party president, to form an interim national government, but the League objected. the Muslim cause would be denied. Jinnah had already declared August 16th Direct Action Day, which amounted to little in most parts of India, but in Calcutta, erupted in Hindu-Muslim rioting. In 5 days of violence, 4,000 people died. Thousands more were wounded. In the months that followed, Hindu-Muslim rioting reportedly flared up throughout India. Early in 1947, when the new viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, met with Indian political leaders to plan transfer of power, riots again broke out as Muslims demanded Pakistan. At the threat of civil war, Congress finally agreed on partition, and on July 18th, the Indian Independence Bill passed without dissent. 1 month later, India and Pakistan emerged as independent nations, with Jawaharlal Nehru as India's first Prime Minister. I was with Prabhupada one evening. Evening time was massage, 10 o'clock at night, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, Prabhupada would get evening massage, which was dry, no oil, massaging his legs, his feet, sometimes his back, whatever he wanted. And at those times, Prabhupada would become very relaxed, very peaceful. And he would remember earlier days. Especially he would like to talk about his childhood. He enjoyed, at least for me it was very enjoyable, talking about his childhood. We know the one thing he mentioned about the kite flying season. Brought up kite flying season. It was my god sister, Kausalya. She said to Prabhupada, now it's in India, this was 1970, she said, it's kite flying season. And Prabhupada laughed. He said, yes. He said, my sister and I, he said, we would fly kites as children. He said that her kite always went higher in the sky than his kite. I don't have to tell you, Prabhupada was a competitive by nature. And especially, I'm sure, with his little sister. He said she always prayed to Govinda to make her kite fly. So finally, he went up on the roof of the house. So then his flight flew higher because he went up on the roof. Of course, she also came up, and then her kite flew higher again than Prabhupada's. He said, pray to Govinda, make the kite fly. Then he said to her, go fly a kite. When we were kids, that expression was there, go fly a kite. I mean, just go away, go fly a kite. But he said to Kausalya, yes, go fly a kite today. You should fly a kite. Partition, tour India. And so I was saying, when Prabhupada was getting massage that night, he was remembering, he said, when I was a child, he said I would come up to like the knees. And he saw Gandhi. He said he saw Gandhi, a big crowd, so many people surrounding him. He looked at me. He said, as a child, he said, I saw the crowd and he thought, I want to have a crowd like that around. Prabhupada wanted to have such a crowd. And of course, it grows, it's still growing. Crowd is still growing around Srila Prabhupada. We see that every day. Partition tour India, leaving 5 million Sikhs and Hindus in Pakistan and as many Muslims in India. And the great migration began. Refugees fleeing from Pakistan to India and from India to Pakistan clashed with each other, and even with their own countrymen of the opposing faith, and violence that erupted claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. Srila Prabhupada said, our independence movement was started by Mahatma Gandhi ji for uniting all the different sections of the people. But actually the result was that instead of being united, India was partitioned. And the partition became so poisonous that formerly there was only sporadic Hindu-Muslim riots in some places, but now there was organized fighting between Pakistan and Hindustan. So actually, we were not being united, we were being separated. The Hindus would go to the mosque of the Muslims and break it, and the Muslim would go to the temples of the Hindus and break the idol. And they will think, we have finished the Hindus' God. Just like the Hindus also think, oh, we have broken their God. They're all ignorant. God cannot be Hindu. God cannot be Muslim. God cannot be Christian. God is God. Just reading in another place, Prabhupada says, gold is gold. Anywhere in the world you have gold, value is the same. It doesn't matter. Of course, here they tax it a little higher in India. People smuggle it in. But gold is gold everywhere. He said there's no such thing, Indian gold, U.S. gold. No, it's gold. So God, same way. Only one God. No Hindu God, Muslim God. So the very thing, and he always says that about Gandhi, the very thing he wanted, completely gone. Everything finished. Killing one another. Different countries. We have seen, this is still Srila Prabhupada, we have seen in 1947 Hindu-Muslim fighting. One party was Hindu, the other party was Muslim. They fought, and so many died. And after death, there was no distinction. Who was Muslim? The municipal men gathered them together in piles to throw them somewhere. They fought. And in Bagh Bazar, there were heaps of dead bodies. And when it is a dead body, nobody could understand who was Hindu and who was Muslim. Simply, it was to be cleared from the road. Abai was not expecting Indian independence to bring any real solutions. Unless the leaders were God-conscious, what change would there be? Now he saw that instead of suffering at the hand of foreign rule, the people were free to suffer under their own countrymen. In fact, the fighting and suffering had increased. Throughout the years of India's political struggles, Abai had never lost his desire to propagate Krishna consciousness. He had seen how promises of unity and independence had brought mostly higher prices and civic mismanagement. He mentioned about the rice, mound of rice. What did he say? When the war, and they made shortages, artificial shortages they made. He credited Churchill with that. He said that he went into the store. How much was a mound of rice? He said 5 rupees. And then the man said he wouldn't sell it to him because his changes had happened. He went back in the afternoon, same mound of rice, 50 rupees. So just like that. We see now, the present time, same thing is going on. They say this year you're going to see everything. Prices rising. Heating in Europe is 4 or 5 times as much as it was last year. So again, all these things are going on. Nothing but discomfort. And this boy is saying, being devotees, struggle, so difficult. Better I just enjoy. We thought like that too. Young age, one's thinking like that. Then when you come to this age, 70 years old, you don't think about enjoying, you think about surviving. Surviving the cold, surviving the heat. You all know, you were all here for this summer, most all of you. What was it, 4 or 5 months, unbearable heat. And of course at that time I'm thinking, this is the worst possible situation. This heat is unbearable. I would go to the morning program And by 10 o'clock, I go into my flat and just sit there in air conditioning. I thought, nothing can be worse than this heat. So now the cold is here. Now going to the temple early in the morning is difficult, at least with the heat. The morning was very nice. Morning program was very nice. Mangalarti, Guru Puja. I remember I'd sit at class and then the sun would come up and I'd have to move out of the sun because it's already getting hot. And now what do? We're all waiting for the sun. 2 days, no sun. We're already, please come back. Where's the sun, right? Today, everybody at MVT, there was like 20 all sitting on the lawn. Sunbathing, we're all like turtles out there chanting Hare Krishna in the sun. So this is the material world. Doesn't matter. Struggle. But the struggle for Krishna, that's perfection. Huh? We see Prabhupada speaking about, again, nothing but headache. He said his family, everybody giving him headaches, making it difficult to preach. I was thinking how tolerant Srila Prabhupada was. Because even after starting the society, it's not like everything became easy for him. We know for the first year in America, more struggle, very little money, just enough to survive. Told you one of the other things Prabhupada said to me, I was a brahmachari. I was with Prabhupada for 16 months as a brahmachari. I was 21 and 22. So I'm 22 years old. And every day I'm bringing Prabhupada his lunch. Every day. Massage, Prabhupada bathe, put tilak on, say Gayatri mantra, lunch prasadam. Every day. Same. Never had to ask. Yeah. That's what he said. First class servant. He knows what to do. Not that you ask. So then I bring him his lunch. I put it on the table, choki on the floor. Prabhupada faced the wall by himself, eating alone. No reading, no watching television, no texting anyone, none of those things. Taking honor prasadam. Prabhupada said, prasadam seva. It's a seva. It's not you're just eating, you're performing service. That you could see with Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, I had been with him about 8 months now. And I go in the room. As soon as Prabhupada sees me walking in the room with the plate, he's up. Regular, you got to be clockwork. He said, if you don't bring prasadam on time, causes indigestion. Because if we know, just like here, you eat at 3 o'clock, say, if you come at 3 o'clock, it's not ready. Already your digestive juices have begun. So Prabhupada said, it has to be on time. This was the business. Anyway, I have the plate. Prabhupada gets up, he goes, sits down in front of the choki. I put the prasadam down. And I offer obeisances. Now, as I'm offering obeisances, Prabhupada said to me, being a brahmachari is an austerity. Being a grahasta is an austerity. He said, you just have to decide which you want to do, which austerity you're prepared to accept. Oh, well, I'm offering obeisances. Prabhupada was such a good preacher. When he said that, I just thought he was talking. I never realized, when I was with Prabhupada, most of the time he would preach to me, but he did it so indirectly because he knew I wasn't listening, nor would I fulfill his desires. But he would tell me what I should be doing. But he didn't tell me what I should be doing. He would just speak very nonchalant, very casually. So he said that. I got up and I left the room. He didn't say another thing about it. I went back and forth 5, 6 times, bringing a chapati, hot chapati. Never said another word. And then 24 hours went by. And 24 hours later, I'm walking in the room with the plate. Rice, dal, chapati, sabjis, little sweet, always sandesh, some milk sweet, always on the plate. So I put the plate down, Prabhupada's sitting. By the time the plate's on the table, he's already sitting down. He sits down. And again, I'm offering obeisances. And he said to me, it was more difficult to manage my family than it is to manage ISKCON. 2 days, 10 seconds. Imagine the preaching. He's seeing his servant. He already knows. I don't know what's going on. I have no understanding why he's saying this to me. But he knows. Just like the one before him and the one before him and the one... You're going to disappear. I have to try to do something. This was Prabhupada. Always tried to keep you away from difficulty. Always. And then when you would get into difficulty, he'd say, okay, now let's do it like this. No rejection. But instruction was there. But with me, the way he instructed, it was always, it seemed so casual. He knew of my inability to follow, to accept that this is meant for me. He did it over and over in different ways. He would say things. He would talk about this, he would talk, but he was always trying to get me to just stay and do your service. Everything else will be all right. Don't worry about anything else. Just do your service, and this is your service. How fortunate we were to have Prabhupada give you instruction personally, no doubt. But still we struggled. We struggled following those instructions. You know, this is what I see in going through these literatures, you know, hearing about Prabhupada's life. Struggle. Don't think you're going to be free of struggle just because you're a devotee. Maybe even more struggle. Maybe less struggle. Prabhupada also says, one letter he says, Krishna doesn't like to see his devotees struggling. That's the faith that's required. If I carry on with my service, everything else will be okay. It may even appear completely terrible, but he's saying it's okay. Krishna has a plan. His spiritual master said, everything Krishna does, everything he does is auspicious. There's nothing that's inauspicious that God does. Don't think why. We pray when difficulties are there. No difficulties, we go on happily carrying on. Don't think that Krishna is not involved in everything. For Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, he says, if you know the game of chess, you know chess, everyone knows a little bit about chess. I know Bhagirath knows about chess. You have to be able to see 10 moves ahead. Not you just make one move. That's not God. He already knows what's going on. He's already 10 moves ahead. You're thinking, why is it like this? Because he knows what's necessary. Once you become devotee, he says it, I see over and over, Prabhupada, you can't go away. Even you go away, you're going to have no choice. Krishna's going to send you back. One of those moves, one of those chess moves. He already knows everything you have planned, but we don't know what he has planned. But we see here with Srila Prabhupada, and I would see it over and over again, no matter how difficult a certain situation was, he knew everything was up to Krishna, ultimately. And for that we struggle for Krishna. And Prabhupada didn't like, talking about Bhaktivinoda Thakur here, huh? You have your duties, then there's your service. Prabhupada, when I was with him in Mayapur, we know Prabhupada, he himself said he slept 2-3 hours at night. He'd get up midnight, 1 o'clock, he would start his translating. Sometimes he would do some translating, then he would stop, he would chant japa, and he would do translating. He might walk around a little bit, sit down, do more translating. So then in the afternoon, after lunch, he would take a little nap, literally 15 minutes, 20 minutes like that. So the one day after lunch, nice lunch in Mayapur, Prabhupada took lunch. So then I removed everything. That was a busy time of day. Lunchtime was busy time. Distributed prasadam, cleaned the table, come back to Prabhupada, and he was sitting on the bed. And then he said, I hate sleep. He said, it's just a waste of time. This is devotee, always serving, always. He said, I hate it. Imagine, there's so much to do, and he's thinking, I'm going to waste my time sleeping. He said, it's just a big waste of time. And then after he said that, he laid down, pulled the sheet over his head, and that was it. So all these different emotions are there. It's not because you see one thing, you hear one thing, you read one thing. It doesn't mean everything else is canceled. That's not what it's like. These different emotions are there. Prabhupada didn't want to sleep, and then he would sleep very nicely. But even his sleeping was Krishna conscious. Some will say he never slept at all, that he was always actually just lying there awake. He could hear you. I know that in the evening when I massaged him, he would stare, lying down in bed on his back with his eyes closed. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm squeezing, and he's just very peacefully. I'd squeeze a little harder because you're not allowed to leave. This is servant. We're all practicing to be good servants. You don't do anything without the order of the spiritual master. That's what I learned with Srila Prabhupada. Nothing. You're not allowed, you aren't allowed any independent thought. We know when I was here, 1974, when Prabhupada was ill, very ill, like 77, similar to those times, so being taken care of 24 hours a day for weeks and weeks myself. Then I was sick. My godbrother from New Vrindavan, Kaladvi, was helping me. So we were just serving Prabhupada. We never left this property. Never left the ISKCON property. Weeks. And finally Prabhupada felt a little better. And that he called us into his room. We were young. We were 23 years old, shaved head, tilak. He looked at us. He said, you've been working so hard. He said, the two of you, he said, you go to the Jamuna, spend the day at the Jamuna. He said, just like a couple of Brahmin boys. We look like young Brahmin boys to him. He said, you go and spend your day at the Jamuna today. He gave us permission to go spend the day at the Jamuna. And we went and we spent the whole day at the Jamuna. We covered ourselves in clay and we laid out there because we could. But until we got that instruction, we never dreamed about doing it. We didn't even think about doing such a thing. Imagine, you're so trained up. We were so trained up in ISKCON. The idea of even going to Jamuna to bathe, that was Maya. It wasn't our service. But then he said that's what you can do. So that's what we did. Anyway, it's always wonderful reading about Srila Prabhupada through all the different periods of his life. Myself, of course, I'm especially attracted to his activities within ISKCON and his childhood activities. But I'm happy to be here this evening, and I hope this little talk was nice, this reading. If there are any questions, questions or anyone has? Oh, let me see. Let me get my glasses back on. I didn't do much. Somewhere in there, yeah. Okay. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.